Hello, everyone, and thanks a lot for listening. This is the first conversation the first in this series that we are doing with some of the artists that are taking part in the exhibition An Oasis at Sunset that is currently on view at MAD Museum in Lisbon until the 21st of February. The exhibition is hosts the 20th anniversary of the EDP prizes, actually, is the prize Novos Artistas and the Grande Premio. And Priscila Fernandes won this prize in 2011, and she has a new work for the exhibition, and that is a film that has become the first episode of a TV series called Never Touch the Ground. And Inês and I were the curators of this exhibition, and we thought that as now is a very strange moment also for people visiting the museum, it would be quite nice to open or to unfold certain works that are possible to be seen or to be discussed online, and to have also the artists involved and to know their experiences, also the works that have been created specifically for this exhibition. So let me introduce you to Priscila. She's an artist based in Rotterdam, and well, she does these incredibly research-based projects that take form into paintings, installations, books, films, etc. And I would say that lately there has been a specific interest in the notions of play in relation to labor and to capitalism. I met Priscila a while ago in Barcelona in 2015 when she was doing a residency there at a PAD project. And she did a beautiful project on pedagogy, on education, looking at Francesc Ferrer i Guàrdia, it was a radical pedagogue that was based in Barcelona or in Catalonia during the beginning of the 20th century. And she ended up doing a publication and an installation also there. But I remember also already seeing some films that she showed me that deal with not just on education, but already about play, and also more like related to children, but also play with adults in corporate moments. So what I thought for today was to first show the piece actually that is on view at MAT, which is a film that is 8 minutes long. And after the film, we can talk about some details, and Priscila, you can tell us a bit about how did it unfold, like where did it start, and so on. And after, we can also see some works that are also related to the notions that are in the film and that perhaps are linked to several issues. So I think we can start by watching the film now.
In this episode, we are going to explore how modern artists, inspired by the exhilarating leisure activities of the 20th century, started a movement into abstract art. Their aim was to make art that never touched the ground. This is Anita, a public sculpture by David Bada, right here in the city center.
I swear that I only see her in different places of this square, and yet no feet, wheels or wings are to be found.
And she moves. She lifts herself and moves. So sneaky when you are not looking.
And she's not the only one. Just look at these sculptures by Franz West. Don't be deceived by their grounded appearance. They are in fact horses, jumping in midair.
Yes, they are. Take a closer look. Yes, closer.
You see?
In 1845, Karl Marx wrote that in the future, workers would be freed from the monotony of their jobs to hunt in the morning, fish in the afternoon, rear cattle in the evening, and criticize after dinner. In 1884, William Morris proposed that in the beautiful new factories, surrounded by gardens for relaxation, employees should only work 4 hours a day. But did all of this come true? Imagining a society of free time has always occupied the mind of artists. Cedric Price was invested in the designing of Leisure Palace, while Cobra artist Constant imagined a city of play, the New Babylon.
Oliveirinha da serra, o vento leva a flor. Oh, eu ai, só a mim ninguém me leva. Oh, eu ai, pra ver do meu amor.
Querida, apruma-te, vá. Vá que hoje aqui é. Não há tempo a perder.
Calma, querido. Eu estou aqui a terminar este crochê para a minha amiga Joana Vasconcelos.
Deixa isso para mais logo. A gente vai ao teatro ver Shakespeare.
Como é que te lembraste disso?
Deram-me os bilhetes de graça?
Aqui é rato.
És uma desconfiada. Foi lá no trabalho que me deram, depois de um briefing sobre como um rato ocupado é como uma máquina bem oleada. Não percebi nada. Não vi óleo nenhum. Apenas um xarope que tomei e os bilhetes que aqui tenho. Vamos!
Respira fundo, querido. Tanta agitação que trazes. Estás diferente hoje.
Ai, obrigado, é do xarope. Chamam-lhe um elixir da vida. Queres um bocadinho?
Acho-te esverdeado.
Tolices! É o melhor xarope de sangue de rato que há. E acaba de uma vez por todas com a preguiça. Funciona mesmo. Hoje não parei uma única vez. Sou como um Hércules. Um herói no trabalho.
Repreendo o meu amor em sua mão. O veneno lhe deu descanso eterno, malvado. Nem sequer uma gotinha para eu segui-lo. Vou beijar-lhe os lábios. Olha uma moedinha.
Amusement parks started as picnic grounds that provided a place for people to relax after work. Soon, whole families gathered, bringing more and more attractions to these places.
The concept of amusement park soon became synonym with adventure.
An array of attractions, dramatic spectacles, entertainment with rides and thrills available to all the workers shaped an understanding of leisure. And this, of course, shaped the way artists looked at the world around them too. Soon, also artists started to go to the attraction parks, losing a sense of control in order to be thrown into the fun and the chaos.
Movement 1966.
Aqui há rato. Round 1. Ives Klein versus Anthropometries. Round 2. Punching holes in the wall versus Armando. versus Armando.
Roller coaster amusement rides have origins back to ice slides in 18th century Russia. But it is only in the early 20th century that the technology and the engineering allowed for greater speeds and sharper turns. By the mid to late 20th century, these elements intensified with the introduction of steel roller coaster designs. The first roller coaster in the Iberian Peninsula opened in 1928. One of the people who couldn't wait to go on a ride on this roller coaster is artist
Jardim. I am 25 years old, waiting in line, patiently.
With the invention of the roller coaster, Ferris wheel and amusement park, one thing becomes certain. From here on, art could never touch the ground. I do not want to touch the ground. It's also nice, no sense of gravity. As I look around, smiley faces I can see. Oh, it's also thrilling. It's all surprising. Oh, it's so exhilarating. I love the merry-go-round, and the roller coaster is very scary. I wish I had more free time to enjoy these things, but all my life is work and work and work and work. I wish we could play more. I wish it would be about fun. It would be about each other, you and me together having fun, you and me together.
Well, you had a lot of fun doing that.
I did. I think it was one of the works that I had most fun with. Yeah, I couldn't stop laughing while we were filming it.
Yeah, no, I remember when you were showing to us. I mean, we were here like doing emails and so on, and you told us you went to a roller coaster, then you went to the non-gravity center, and so on. So and I think that is very important to your work, and I think we can go like go deeper into that, like to have fun also, like work and play can be together, and it's not only about representing that or showing that theoretically, but also like doing it. No?
Yeah, and I would like to thank very much for this invitation of coming here and being able to open this work a little bit, but also for Matt's invitation to the commission of this work, because when we talked, Rosa and Inês, I showed you this research, and at that time I was planning to transform the research into an essay, maybe a performance. And with the possibility of doing this work format, then things start moving really quickly, and soon I started to understand that actually the right format for it would be a TV episode, because this work is trying to create a correlation between leisure and abstract art. And the TV is in itself deeply embedded in the history of leisure. So the TV episode is still educational, such as an essay would be, or a lecture would be, but it is directed to a wider audience, and it's more playful as well. Yeah, I was happy to be able to make this first episode in hopefully what will be a series of more episodes.
Yeah, and there's gonna be more. And one of the, I mean, we can go now looking at specific moments that the first time I watched it, I was thinking like, perhaps I am missing certain bits, which I think is also okay, and it's full of reference. So because your research is super deep, and you have been looking at and reading at these issues for a long time. So there's, I think, certain things that it would be nice also to share with the people that are listening today. But also on the film, you are already like at the beginning explaining like from historical references, even like from Marx, and this idea of that leisure became a capitalist good, and how you had to fill it with, with attractions. It had to, involve a transaction of money as well, no? So perhaps we go to the first moment where you are in, is it in the Netherlands, but I don't know the city specifically, where you talked about this sculpture, which is Anita, no?
Yeah, the film is, the episode is filmed in Rotterdam, in the city center, and also in Belgium at amusement park called Bobby Arland, and at the Sky diving center in Roosendaal in the Netherlands. Yeah, and it starts in the city center. So Rotterdam is famous for public art. We have an amazing collection of fantastic artists. And Anita is a sculpture, a public sculpture that was commissioned to Dutch artist David Bader I believe in 2001, and it was placed in a very central square, where every day that you want to go to Central Station, to the train, you pass this sculpture. And for me, this was one of the first sculptures that I saw, of course, when I arrived to Rotterdam. And every day that I would see this sculpture, I had the feeling that it was in a different place in the square. And I swear that I could see that it had wheels, until I talked with the artist. I met him once, and I said, it has wheels, right? And it's not, it's completely fixed in the ground. But it's a sculpture that gives you the feeling that it's constantly moving. And I don't know if it's because of the shape, but the way you look at it, it feels like it's always rotating, always out of place. So I thought that was a good a beginning to narrate this idea of artists that were so exhilarated by the city, the energy of the city, that their aim was to make art that would never touch the ground. And Anita was the first example, that she's always on the move.
Yeah. There's also the Franz West one, of course, that you're kind of animating. And,
yes.
so this is like the beginning, and then there is like the reference also to Portuguese art, and I think this is very beautiful because going back to the first idea of working together for this exhibition, we wanted to make connection between the people, well, all the artists that took part on these anniversaries, meaning like, for example, André Romão is looking at Lourdes Castro, which was the first one to win the prize, and other examples of artists that have collaborated. And you kind of looked at, had this idea of also thinking, okay, this is international, which means that, I can think of who had these similar ideas, or who could we connect, and that's from Joana Vasconcelos, and then we will see from Cesarini also. And
Yeah,
Joana was really excited about seeing this episode as well.
Good.
Really
I'm happy.
funny.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear. This with Cesarini was also related to the Sismo Figuras, and you have that scene in the roller coaster where I'm trying to draw also a Sismo Figura, and so this idea of the drawing being suspended without letting your hand touch the paper, that kind of feeling of gravity. That really defines also the idea of never touching the ground.
Totally.
And I'm working, I can tell you that I'm working on different episodes, and they are kind of located in different places. So here you have the city, but then I also have the land, the mountains, and the beach. And I have, for the beach episode, I have Cesarini making soprofiguras, with a straw of a chocolate and strawberry milkshake. Yeah.
And what about this chapter where there's the little mouse knitting, and I know it has a reference because you can see there's the Mausolini, no? So
yeah, the knitting was in reference to Joana Vasconcelos, because she's just next to me showing a film that relates to that. I thought it was a nice way of connecting. And I also can say that the style of the TV episode, it's highly influenced by children's TV, and here in Holland there's really funny and smart TV episodes with all kinds of subjects for children, and they mix like speaking animals with documentary style. So that was why in my TV episode there's also these talking animals to be able to tell a different story, to break with the narrative. And in that specific episode of the Aqui há rato, I smell a rat. There are several things happening. So there is indeed a reference to Mussolini or Mausolini. And this was to open up maybe a different side of leisure, that is how leisure is actually instrumentalized to make you more productive individual. So we know that Mussolini gave free tickets to go to the opera on Saturday nights, because there was this idea that the busy body is like a well-oiled machine, and any form of leisure is still in order to keep up with a busy body. And then the sketch continues, and it talks about elixir of life, a syrup of life. And that's in reference to the chemist Wilhelm Weishart, if I pronounce correctly. In 1904, he announced a revolutionary vaccine that would make men always productive. So he tried to let rats run themselves to death in order to create an antidote based on their antibodies. And this antidote, or this vaccine, was against laziness. It was also used in classrooms with children to see if they could raise activity in students. and later is also used in the military, but it doesn't, obviously it doesn't work. It was a placebo. But it shows maybe a darker side of,
Yeah, totally. What time was that? Which
1904 to 1914. Yeah.
Okay, and they actually tested it in children and
Yes, there's a small test. Yeah, it's a horrible story. Yeah.
Well,
it's yeah. So that sketch slightly darker. Yeah. How we perceive leisure and laziness in our lives. Yeah.
No, but still, I mean, it's, you kind of twisted it to make it kind of sort of fun, and if you want to, you know, get deeper into the whole story, otherwise it's also like a small like twink of the eye of this story.
Yeah.
Then there's Yves Klein that was doing judo, right?
Yes, that's the Akihatu sketch.
Yeah.
And he's fighting with his own paintings, with his own work. And then later he's fighting Armando, that is a Dutch painter and sculptor and writer.
And why Armando? Why?
So I went to see an exhibition by Armando recently, and I found they exhibit his boxing gloves, and apparently he liked it to box. It has nothing to do with the paintings, but if you look at the paintings, you could almost like fictionalize that he's actually punching because they are so expressive and so brutal. So he's Armando is also fighting one of his works, that is the tires on the wall where he's punching them. Yeah, about Yves Klein, he was what do you say, judoka, yeah. He was so passionate that he wrote a book about it, the foundations of judo, and he even opened a school in Paris. And this is before he makes that work a leap into the void. And I know that for a judoka, the biggest fear is to fall. So you could maybe imagine that also that his training came at hand. Yeah.
And they are also, I mean, this is a kind of not a Game Boy, but a sort of machine that is also a machine of like electronic, I would say, device. You kind of created this idea, which is also about leisure, about free time, no, later on in history, but it's definitely that sense. And there's also like the last part, which is also really fun. I guess you enjoyed it a lot, which is flying, basically, not touching the ground in one of these, I don't know how they're called, these places where you kind of lose the sense of gravity.
Skydiving.
Skydiving, exactly. Yeah.
Indoor skydiving, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great experience. I recommend everybody to do it.
With these beautiful suits, because this is something that is there in the whole film. There's a lot of references that are about paintings, no, abstract paintings specifically, in the suit you're wearing, also like in the tickets, on your mask, on like small hints here and there, no?
Yeah. So it's full of references indeed, and reproductions of abstract artworks from the 20th century, mainly, and artworks that, because they don't show a line of horizon, because of the forms or the objects, there is a sense of gravity of everything is up in the air. So that was my choice. But also at the same time, what I'm trying to do with ultimately with this work is to create a correlation between the development of leisure in the 20th century with the development of abstract art, and see if there are moments that one thing can influence the other. And of course, it's an absurd correlation, but sometimes it's not. There are actually truthful correlations, but it is, yes, it is in it. Yeah, it's not something that you study, this correlation, right? So I can share something with you, maybe. I can share how the research is shaped, and this is what you are seeing here is an ongoing document that is constantly being updated. And on one side you have the history of leisure, and the other side you have the history of abstract painting. And here I'm trying to correlate one thing with the other. Yeah. So this is the skeleton, let's say, or the brain behind the film.
And it goes until now, or it's based on 20th century?
It goes until, yeah, it goes until now, yes. But I'm mainly I'm in this episode I'm focusing a lot in the 1960s, I believe, until 1980s, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember this was one of the first things, not exactly this drawing, but other diagrams also that you had that were beautiful in itself, like doing this kind of connections, not only in time, but also in kind of image relation. It was very intuitive, no, I guess, the relation between, I don't know, skating and something else that was circular, or there's like this Sonia Delaunay, which is a beautiful image as well on the film with the merry-go-round and so on. So
yeah, and I'm trying to make this correlation believable as well. And one of the ways of doing that, it's by, you know, using a didactic method such as a TV episode, but also by creating these diagrams. And it's a way of that by using these demonstrative modes, or by rationalizing or structuring the information, a theory can also become more can become convincing. Yeah.
Convincing and also more fun at the same time, I think.
Yes, I think ultimately it is about play. Yes.
Yeah, it's not like this kind of academic paper. It's more like something more, you know, intuitive, more fun, more artistic, if you want to call it like that. And at the same time, there's like a lot of yes, you said references to painters, to episodes in history that whoever wants to go deep into something, he can like take it and study more from there. This is the map, right, of the thematic park. Yeah.
Yes, it's the amusement park on the background, and then on the top it's a lot of artworks that I'm referring to. So this was the map that I show on the TV episode. I opened it up.
Exactly.
And these that you are seeing here are some visual sketches or ways of thinking about the TV episode. Some of them are for other chapters.
Yeah, then I'm seeing that we go through the discotheque and the nights, perhaps with Opart in the future, which is I'm looking forward to seeing that. And perhaps you can also relate now to other projects that have a similar research that deal with the idea of leisure, and also leisure and work, and how, as you were saying, on the dark side of leisure as well sometimes, or how we conceive leisure today, that has to be productive always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I can tell you that also from that chronology that I just showed you, I mean, that's one example of a chronology. I have several, but from there, I also came to this work that is called Labor Series. And in this work, I'm really looking at the chronology and connecting two things together. So in some cases, it's really didactic or very direct. So for example, in the 1960s, with the invention of the roller skates in America, it's also when abstract expressionism becomes popular. And then you have other activities, slip and sliding. That was like a game that children did with plastic and water. The hammock, the inflatables, and so I put myself in situations where I'm engaging with a leisure activity in order to paint. The final artwork, the final work, is a photograph that you see now that I'm showing to you. Yeah, in this in the labor series, I'm not only interested in making this correlation, but also thinking about how much leisure is part of our working life. So the dichotomy between or the division between work and leisure is something that is very fluid. Yeah. You don't know when you are at leisure or when you are at work. At least I find it hard to do that. The same with when I showed the work at the São Paulo Biennial, that is Gozolandia, Cuckooland. This is the installation here with the film. In this work, I'm again looking at how leisure is a mirror that reflects the way that we are expected to perform professionally and in many aspects of our daily lives, and how much leisure is also part of the ethics of work and serves to fulfill a desire to be productive. How much leisure activities help you promoting self-discipline and self-improvement. And so this is the negative side of leisure, let's say. And I want to actually look if we can find positive ways of looking at leisure. And here I put also laziness and idleness in the same boat, as subversive acts that can form a resistance. Mm. So in this work, it's a 15-minute film. What you see, it's a bit of a history of leisure, starting from the myth of cocaine, which is a myth that started here in the Netherlands and France in the 15th century, and then evolved through the centuries and through the trades and exchanges until the 19th century. Every culture, not every, but many cultures have their own version of the country of cocaine. And the country of cocaine is a place where things come from the sky, where you don't need to work. It's a celebration of laziness as a positive thing. So this film starts with that image, and then it unfolds into different ways of looking at leisure. And it's filmed in Parque Ibirapuera in São Paulo, which is a massive park, 7 kilometers long, I think, where people come to spend their leisure time in many different forms. So it was also a good, let's say, playground for me to observe how people relate to leisure.
It reminds me, I mean, this was done before the confinement and this kind of new relation with the idea of leisure, and I'm thinking about all these new ways of enjoying time that you have at home, like online courses of everything. One time, this specific moment that was for, if you didn't have to work, you could be lazy at home. Although the world was kind of complicated and everyone was suffering, it was a moment just to stop it was impossible. I mean, there appeared thousands of new ideas to do to fill your time with productive things. No, it's like, okay, I need to be at home, but I will do like 7 courses in things, you know, to keep me busy and to continue being productive, let's say, even if the world is not being productive, but you needed to be, no? And yeah, it made me think that how leisure, perhaps it has changed in this last year on how we perceive it, no? And I also was thinking that not in this last film, but in the leisure series, you are very present yourself. It's you that is doing these sort of performances, no, or these acts, and that it's something kind of private because you do it, and then there's only like an image, somehow a frozen image of the whole process, and is a bit is also interesting, I think, just to say, no, well, I had fun doing that, but it's something mine, and you know, you can imagine it, and it becomes a product, like an artwork with something else, no? That perhaps is also interesting, that you put yourself to perform this idea of leisure and of like having fun, no, playing with the works.
Yeah, and I think the fun and the play, it's the moment where it kind of liberates it, you know, from the kind of the production, or the fact that you're producing something. These leisure activities are things that I've never done myself, so I don't know how to skate, actually. But yeah, I also have to engage in these experiments and try to learn what kind of gesture certain leisure activity could give, you know. So there is a very intuitive side to it, and a lot of experimentation.
And going back to the country of cocaine, cocaine, and there was a moment that you said that it was this place, this ideal world with like, yeah, you didn't have to work, and all you had available for yourself, like all kind of fruits and things that you didn't have to make efforts, no? You didn't show an image, but you did a really beautiful performance that was at the Portuguese embassy at the Bienal de São Paulo. Yeah, Jardim Europa. Which, well, perhaps you can explain it better. I was not there, but I watched the film. That some characters were playing these bits of this story, right?
Yes. So in Jardim Europa, it was a performance that took place in the Portuguese consulate during the São Paulo Biennial. And this space, the garden of the Portuguese consulate, has a tropical garden that is designed by Burle Marx. And the performance consisted on interpretive reading of different versions of the country of cocaine, which, as I said, it's this medieval myth that it's a paradise, a human paradise, yeah, where you don't need to work and everything comes from the sky. And so the script is adapted from a compilation of the different versions of the country of cocaine. This was a story that would be told in the streets to make people cheerful in moments where you would be going through famine or suffering, you know. So it was a history to make people have a bit of hope, maybe. And as I said, it starts in 13th or 14th century in Holland, and then it moves to different countries. And during that movement, it's also adapted. So the first version of the country of cocaine is a celebration of laziness. but when Calvinism enters the Netherlands and becomes a cultural ideology, the country of cocaine is then seen, is a story that is told to say what you should not do, you know. When it goes to Spain, it becomes a satire. And when it goes to Brazil, finally, on the 19th century, it's more about a history of colonization of the Portuguese and exploiting the diamonds and the gold. It's a very nice way also looking at these versions of the country of cocaine to also read history, you know?
Totally.
Because it's moving from culture to culture and adapting with time. So you can read a lot into it if you want. And I was fascinated by that. So I made a script that is a combination with this of these different versions, and that's what you hear in the performance, most of it. And then there's other side acts that with actors that are singing or repeating certain sentences at some point. There's also a banquet that is made for the day. Yeah, and it's not that the food rains from the sky, but the swimming pool has some coconut water floating around, so you can grab the coconut water. Yeah, but it was in the Portuguese consulate, so I was trying to claim that space also as a country, you know, the country of cocaine with its own flags and the national representation. And of course, that's not possible in the. I was trying to replace the flags of the Portuguese consulate, and that was too far. But we still had flags of our country of cocaine in the garden. Yeah.
What was the flag? What was it inspired? Like, does it appear in the story at a certain moment, or?
The flag, yeah. I don't know if I have. There are two flags of the cocaine. They have modernist, like abstractions of modernist, of buildings by Oscar Niemeyer. Yeah, so they have like spirals or you know, in Parque Ibirapuera, you have this beautiful structure for the skaters that is between abstraction and figuration. You know, so those elements I took from the drawings of Oscar Niemeyer, and I played with them in the to make the mask, to make the flags. Sorry, you can see them in the video. The video is online on my website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you said, I mean, this idea of work, well, the ethics of work, basically, I would say, of work and of leisure at the same time, is something, that has to do with culture and with time and with religion, or specifically, no, as you said, I mean, this can be a very Protestant way of looking at that, no, like you control yourself, how many hours you spend working, and in this country where everything is like available. I don't know, perhaps is not the best place, no, because you need to, I don't know which would be exactly the moral, but it will have a moral, I think. Whereas, I don't know, the Catholic kind of way of looking at work is also something that you have to do because you're obliged to do, or imposed by something external. And if you can escape it, it's, you know, it's fine, let's say, because it's something that someone is imposing to you, and yeah.
And I think it becomes really problematic when it's used pejoratively to call people lazy, like in Southern Europe, you know, because we have so much tourism and the culture of leisure. It doesn't mean that people are lazy, but this image of leisure, you know, becomes associated with other pejorative associations. And I think that's very, very dangerous. So also for our own lives, I mean, we cannot be constantly in this hyper performance trying to, you know, to do everything at the same time. But I'm speaking, I mean, I'm a person that multitasks, that is proud of doing 3 things at a time, you know. and in my own work, I see that one of the constant questions that I have is that why am I performing in this way? You know, how did I learn, or what did I learn that made me act on this way? You know, why am I so afraid of playing? Because I am, actually. It's very hard for me to play and have fun. This is the first time. Why is it so hard to play? How did I learn to do things in a certain way? Or why I'm so raised in this kind of modernist tradition, you know? So this is the main questions that kind of drive my work, and this hyper activity, and also this hyper performance that we have in our lives. Yeah. So I'm trying to find a moment where I can liberate myself from it, you know, where I can find positive ways, a positive agency, because this is not a good way of living. It's not sustainable. Even it brings us into a kind of a crisis. Also, if you think about environment and like the accumulation of production that we have nowadays. So I think it's very important to shift our focus from labor to leisure, you know, and by doing this work, I hope that I can find for myself at least a way of dealing with it in a positive way.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea of leisure, like really not a consumerist or not a capitalist way of looking at this leisure, no? Or even if we look at these concepts today of this 24/7 work that we're doing while you know, being on social networks or producing things for who knows who as well. Like, it's very confusing. At the same time, is this overproduction for, you know, nothing sometimes even, no? And yeah, how can this become like a positive way of not working, really, but really not working? It's difficult to make this happen somehow, I think. Okay. I don't know if you want to go back to other works that deal specifically about play. We have like 5-8 minutes that are play, but also like this adult way of playing in corporate sort of circumstances, and also like children.
Yeah. So my to give context to the EDP Novos Artistas, one of the works that I presented in the exhibition in 2011 was Product of Play, which is this work you see here. And this is maybe one of the first works where I'm looking at the instrumentalization of play. So this is me not knowing how to play myself, and why is it important for me to play. I started looking at who is creating play, who is using it, right? So in this film, I have a boy and a girl filmed from front and from above. The boy is building a structure with wooden blocks, which is a toy for fun, but it's also an instrument for a psychologist to assess your development. So it is a tool to monitor, to keep an eye on your development. So that's already quite interesting for me. And at the same time, we have a girl that is a bit nervous, hesitant, and towards the end of the film, she laughs, and her laugh morphs into the magic flute, the very high, the part that everybody knows from the magic flute for a soprano opera singer, you know, that is extremely difficult for an adult, even for a soprano singer to sing that. It's extra human. So, yeah. So this is the idea of that I wanted to bring, was between play and this performativity, this hyper performativity, and how we are using play to monitor our development, but also to shape the way that we grow. Yeah. And then maybe the other interesting works could be Naar speeltuin, which in Dutch, the translation then to English is to the playground, in which I set up an activity of team building with a team builder. These are activities that are made in offices, mostly to help workers feel more playful and more cohesive, more connected with each other, and also more productive, more creative. And this activity this team building activity takes place in a playground made in the 1940s by the Dutch architect Aldo van Eyck. He made more than 400 playgrounds where the idea was to play freely. So there's one thing opposing to the other, a very constructed form of play with a team building, with an architecture of that was supposed to be about freedom. And at the same time that we have the adults playing like children, I was also very interested in looking at how children are playing. And I usually show these two works together, actually, for a better world and Naar speeltuin. And in this film, you see children playing like adults in a theme park that recreates the capitalist city, where children have to work to earn money, which they can spend in that playground, in that theme park, and so on. So yeah, these are some of the stills.
This is amazing. I mean, first time I was like astonished to see. Although I know that children have this, from my own experience, this idea of like role playing. They love it.
Yeah, it's completely natural.
Yeah. So I mean, this is normal, like to see, but when you put it into a context where it's very easy to just get into buying specific things with already a name and a brand and or doing a certain kind of job, no?
Yeah, children love it, and I went there with my cousins actually, and they were very little back then. And I was very curious to hear their opinion, because I thought at first, oh, wow, what a strange place. And I was very surprised to hear their feedback, because not only they loved it, but they immediately had suggestions of how to improve it. Because there was like one activity was to go out to the factory and to produce juice. And there was only 10 children workers that were allowed at each time. But they said, if you increase that, if it's 20 children there, they can produce more juice. So yeah, I thought it was a learning situation to hear from them what they thought of this space. And it is a very interesting space, because you can study it in so many different ways, as a psychologist, or as a brand, or as an artist, or
pedagogist.
In my case, as an artist, I manipulated it so it would look like total chaos, and because that was the message was that the children would be so adult that they would even riot against it. But
Okay.
Fascinating.
So I think we've gone through, a series of works that have this common line, I would say, of play, of leisure, of an ethics between work and not work. And perhaps it's time to open it to questions, if there's any question from the audience, although we cannot see anyone. It's a very strange moment, but if you want to ask anything, let us know, and we are here, and we can also finish the talks. Someone is saying that there's no other questions. So thanks a lot, Priscila, for showing us, and thanks everyone there for listening to us, and for Matt, obviously, for making this happen. And we invite you again to go and see the exhibition, those who can, until the 21st of February. and to get to know the artists. We will be doing more of these series of conversations. Now the next one will be already in December. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Rosa and Matt.
Okay, bye-bye.
And thank you for all that watched. Bye-bye.